A flight attendant makes a choice that stuns an entire terminal, all because she didn't know who the young girl in front of her really was. What happens when perception collides with power? Let us know in the comments section below. Her grip tightened around the bright yellow envelope marked "Unaccompanied Minor." It crinkled softly in her fingers, but Cassandra Roosevelt didn't mind the noise. It was better than the quiet stares. One glance down at her Converse, clean but definitely not fancy, and then up at the rows of business suits and designer handbags crowding the gate area. She could feel their eyes without needing to meet them. Cassandra had memorized the path. Security had been easy. Dad's assistant had walked her to the checkpoint. And the gate wasn't far. She was early, of course, always early. Dad was big on that. "People who run things never show up late," he'd say. "We don't wait to be told where to go." The last thing he said before letting her go was, "Call me the second you land, not a second after." His hand had rested gently on her shoulder, steady and warm. Then he gave her a wink. He always did that, the kind of wink that said, "They don't know who you are yet, but they will." She clutched her boarding pass in her left hand and scanned the row of Delta signs. She found Gate 32B. A line of adults waited to pre-board. All of them looked straight ahead, except one woman behind the counter. Blonde bob, red lipstick, eyes like sharp glass. Her name tag read Paige Whitmore. Cassandra stepped forward, standing right under the unaccompanied minor's sign like the instructions told her. Paige didn't acknowledge her. She typed on her keyboard with the kind of intensity that made you think it was personal. Cassandra waited. Then she coughed politely. Nothing. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said, keeping her voice steady like her dad had taught her. That got Paige's attention. The woman's eyes moved slowly from Cassandra's face to the envelope in her hand. Her expression twisted, just slightly. It was fast, too fast for most people to catch, but Cassandra caught it. A flicker of judgment. Disbelief. "Let me see that," Paige said, her voice clipped. Cassandra handed her the envelope, fingers still tight around the boarding pass inside. Paige took it without thanks and slid the boarding pass out with two manicured fingers. She looked it over, then at Cassandra, then back again. "This doesn't look right," Paige muttered, loud enough for the older couple behind the desk to hear. "Unaccompanied minor, huh? Are you sure this is yours?" Cassandra blinked. "Yes, ma'am. My dad printed it last night. He paid for the service. It should say Roosevelt." Paige's eyebrows shot up. "Roosevelt?" "Yes, Cassandra Roosevelt. Flying to Austin?" Instead of checking the screen, Paige scoffed and, right in front of everyone, ripped the boarding pass in half. The sound wasn't loud, but in Cassandra's ears it was like a firecracker. She felt it in her chest, a burning, confusing thud of heat. Paige shook her head with theatrical annoyance. "You can't just walk up here with some paper and expect to get on a plane. This is federal. Where are your parents?" "My father dropped me off. He has to work, but he..." "Do you have ID?" "And 12. So, no." Cassandra's voice shrunk in her throat. People in line were watching now, murmuring. A businessman in a blue blazer tilted his head. A woman holding a toddler gave Cassandra a long, sad look. "Please call the number on the envelope," Cassandra said. "It has all the information, my dad's phone, the confirmation code, everything." Paige didn't even glance at it. She dropped the torn pieces of the boarding pass on the counter and sighed dramatically. "You kids think you can just show up with anything," she said. "You're not flying anywhere today, sweetheart. I'm not risking my job for something fake." A new voice cut in from the side. "Is there a problem here?" It came from a woman with a Delta pin on her sweater. Carmen Ruiz, the secondary gate agent. She'd been helping at Gate 31A, but must have heard the tension. Paige waved her off. "Nothing I can't handle. She's trying to board with a fake pass." "It's not fake," Cassandra said louder than she meant to. "My name is on it. My dad owns..." He bought the... But she stopped. Dad had always told her. Don't tell people who I am unless it matters. Right now, it mattered. But the words got stuck. Carmen walked over and took the envelope from Paige. She looked inside, pulling out the printed itinerary and confirmation form, stamped with a corporate seal. Her eyes widened. Wait, is your father's name David Roosevelt? Cassandra nodded, chest still tight. Oh my God. Carmen's voice dropped into a whisper. David Roosevelt. The David Roosevelt. Paige tilted her head, a flicker of uncertainty creeping in. What, you know him or something? Carmen turned the screen toward her and typed. Her eyes darted, then her hand covered her mouth. Owns us. Paige. He owns the airline. His name's in the board notes. He's CEO of Roosevelt Ventures. They bought a majority stake in Skybright Holdings last quarter. That includes Delta Connect. For a second, Paige didn't speak. She just blinked. Then, slowly, she turned toward Cassandra, her mouth opening, but not saying a thing. Carmen bent down behind the desk and retrieved a fresh boarding pass. She held it out, her hand trembling just a little. Here you go, Cassandra. You're pre-boarding, right now. I'll escort you personally. I'm sorry about the confusion. Cassandra took the pass, her fingers brushing lightly against Carmen's. She didn't say anything to Paige. She didn't have to. Because Paige's face, pale and stunned, said everything. But deep in Cassandra's chest, there was no satisfaction, only the quiet ache of a moment that never should have happened in the first place. And across the terminal, a man in a slate-gray suit was already striding toward the gate, phone in hand and eyes locked on Paige. David Roosevelt had just landed, and he wasn't smiling. Cassandra kept her eyes forward as Carmen guided her down the jet bridge. The new boarding pass felt too crisp in her hands. Her fingers curled around it like it might vanish if she let go. Her backpack bounced lightly against her back with each step, the kind of bounce that used to make her giggle when she was younger. But not today. The door to the plane swung open and the flight attendant standing there, an older black woman with silver-streaked braids and warm, almond-shaped eyes, smiled when she saw her. Hey, baby girl, you must be Cassandra, she said, already crouching down to meet her gaze. Heard you had a little bit of a rough start out there. Come on in, we got your seat all ready. Cassandra managed a nod, stepping past her into the cabin. The air smelled of citrus and coffee. Her seat was in the first row. First class. A window seat, just like she liked. Her dad always remembered. The attendant gently placed her small carry-on in the overhead bin. My name's Miss Delilah. I'll be checking in on you the whole flight, all right? You let me know if you need anything. Cassandra tried to answer, but her voice still hadn't fully returned. Instead, she nodded again. Miss Delilah's hand rested on her shoulder for a moment. It was a kind of touch that told her, "You're safe now." Back at the gate, Paige stood behind the desk, visibly shaken. Her hands hovered over the keyboard, then dropped uselessly to her sides. She didn't know what to do with them. People were still watching. Whispers had turned into full sentences. Judgments were bouncing back now. She had just ripped up the ticket of the daughter of David Roosevelt. He walked straight through the gate security badge, clipped on, phone still in his palm, and didn't break stride until he was directly in front of her. Are you Paige Whitmore? His voice wasn't loud, but it might as well have been thunder. Paige looked up slowly, her face a strange mix of pride and panic. Yes, I am. Mr. Roosevelt, I didn't know. That's clear, he said, voice like a blade, calm but unforgiving. I didn't realize who she was. I just thought she... David's brow rose slowly. She what? Paige's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. She didn't look like she had proper identification. It's a safety protocol. I followed. Is your protocol to tear up a boarding pass before verifying anything in the system? He asked. Or was your protocol to profile a 12-year-old girl who did absolutely nothing wrong? Her jaw twitched. I didn't mean to. David took a step closer. Not threatening, just present, solid, like someone who owned the ground he stood on, and possibly the building too. I built this airline around trust, transparency, and dignity, especially for the people who fly alone, who are vulnerable, like children, like my daughter. And you decided she didn't belong? He didn't raise his voice, didn't swear, didn't shout. But Paige shrank beneath his words like she was dissolving in them. Across the terminal, Carmen stood to the side, her arms crossed. Her eyes flicked between Paige and David. She didn't say a word, but she didn't look away either. "Is this how you treat all our unaccompanied minors?" David continued. "Or just the ones that don't look like they belong to someone important?" Paige opened her mouth to object, but she couldn't even form a full sentence. The silence between them stretched out like an accusation. "I want your supervisor here, now." Her hands moved awkwardly to the phone system. "Yes, sir." "And Paige." She looked down. "I want you nowhere near that flight. If I see you boarding that aircraft, if my daughter so much as sees you again, you won't be working in this terminal ever again. Understood?" "Yes, Mr. Roosevelt." He turned and walked toward Carmen, who straightened up the moment he approached. "Thank you," he said simply. Carmen blinked. For what? For listening, for stepping in, for not just standing there while it happened. "I didn't do enough," she said softly. "You did more than most." He turned away then, his phone already buzzing in his palm. As he took the call, Carmen watched him walk back toward the executive suite at the end of the corridor, past the gate, past the stairs. The suit, the stride, everything about him said, "This isn't over." And she had a feeling he meant it. Inside the plane, Cassandra sat still in her seat, eyes trained on the window. Outside, the ground crew moved carts and luggage, the sun reflecting sharply off the tarmac. She watched them, not because she was interested, but because her heart hadn't caught up to the rest of her. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried in a long time. But the heat behind her eyes felt dangerously close to tears. She gripped the armrest and blinked hard. Then she heard it, the sound of her dad's voice. He was coming down the aisle now. The flight attendant had let him board for a moment. He didn't stop to look around, just knelt beside her. "Hey," he said gently. She didn't say anything. "You okay?" Cassandra finally looked at him. Her lip quivered, just for a second. "I didn't do anything wrong." "I know," he said. "I know, baby girl." Her voice cracked a little. "She didn't even ask. She just ripped it. Like I didn't belong there. Like I was lying." David reached into his inside coat pocket and pulled out her lanyard, the one with the robotics camp badge. "You forgot this." She smiled, barely. "I talked to the crew. You're all set. Miss Delilah's the best. You'll be in Austin in 2 hours. Just remember, none of this has anything to do with you. It has to do with who people think they're better than, but that's their problem, not yours." Cassandra exhaled. "Are you going to fire her?" David gave a small smile, then stood up. "I don't need to," he said. "She fired herself the moment she forgot what humanity looks like." He kissed her forehead. "Be amazing, all right?" "I will." And with that, he walked off the plane, the curtain falling behind him like the end of a scene. Miss Delilah returned, offering a soft smile and a warm chocolate chip cookie from the first-class tray. "All right, baby girl," she said. "Let's fly." 35 minutes into the flight, Cassandra stared at the tray table in front of her. The cookie was long gone, her juice box half empty, and her nerves still simmering low in her belly like warm static. Miss Delilah had checked in twice already, once with a kind word and once with a smile that didn't ask for anything in return. The kindness helped. It didn't erase what had happened, but it softened the sharp edges. Cassandra reached into her backpack and pulled out her little notebook, the one with the silver stars on the cover. She flipped it open to the page she'd been working on all week, a blueprint of a robotic arm designed to sort recyclables by weight and density. It wasn't perfect. The sensors still needed work. but something about diving back into her sketches always helped her feel like herself again. A soft chime overhead interrupted her thoughts. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We'll be hitting a small patch of turbulence in about 5 minutes. Nothing serious. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." Miss Delilah reappeared down the aisle, moving smoothly from seat to seat, checking belts and calm faces. Cassandra adjusted hers, tightening it across her lap. She wasn't scared of turbulence. She'd flown a bunch of times with her dad. But flying alone felt different, smaller. The lights overhead flickered slightly as the cabin dipped and rose. A soft jolt, then another. Gasps rippled through the cabin like waves on a lake. Cassandra clutched the notebook tighter, but her face stayed calm. Just like Dad taught her, never panic before the adults do. Across the aisle, a middle-aged man in a sharp gray suit clicked his laptop shut and looked up. The woman next to him gripped the armrests. Cassandra watched silently, observing how fear spread faster than logic. Another bump, this one heavier. The plane tilted slightly before leveling again. Miss Delilah crouched down beside Cassandra. "You all right, baby?" Cassandra nodded. "Just feels like a roller coaster." Miss Delilah chuckled. "That's a good way to think about it." Then the curtain at the front of first class swept open. Cassandra glanced up. It was Thomas Reynolds, the gate supervisor from earlier. He wasn't supposed to be on this flight, but there he was, stepping into the aisle like he belonged there. Cassandra blinked, unsure if she was imagining him. He walked right up to Miss Delilah and whispered something in her ear. Miss Delilah's brows furrowed. Cassandra watched her nod once and then step away. Mr. Reynolds crouched where she had just been, close to Cassandra's seat, but not touching anything. "Cassandra, right?" he asked. She blinked. "Yes, sir. My name's Mr. Reynolds. I work at the airport. I wanted to say, I'm sorry for what happened earlier." Her guard went up again. She tilted her head, studying him. His face was flushed, not from the altitude, but from shame. "I let something happen that shouldn't have," he continued. "I didn't stop it when I saw it, and I should have. Paige was wrong." Cassandra said nothing. Her silence was sharp. "I've worked in airports for 20 years, he went on. "I've seen a lot, but today reminded me that being quiet isn't the same as being neutral. It's being complicit." She looked down at her hands. "I wanted to let you know I'm filing a full report when we land," he said. "And your father has already contacted the board. There'll be accountability." Cassandra looked up. "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" Mr. Reynolds hesitated. "No, it's not, but I hope it means something, even if it's late." She nodded, but slowly. She didn't want to carry his guilt. That wasn't hers to hold. Miss Delilah returned then, touching his shoulder gently. "That's enough now." He stood up, glanced back at Cassandra one more time, then quietly disappeared behind the curtain again. The turbulence faded. So did the tension in Cassandra's chest. Not completely, but enough. She looked back at her notebook and started sketching again. New idea: use motion sensors calibrated to vibration and weight instead of visual sorting. The handwriting was a little shaky from the bumps, but it was hers. Another 20 minutes passed before someone else sat next to her. A teenage boy, maybe 15, with earbuds in and a hoodie over his head. He didn't say anything, just nodded politely and went back to playing something on his phone. For the first time in hours, Cassandra didn't feel watched. She worked quietly, page after page, until her designs were spread across the tray table like puzzle pieces. Wires, arms, sensors, labels in the margins like weighted tension spring, light detection diode. Her world. The one she built, wire by wire, code by code. Then something unexpected happened. The boy beside her pulled out his earbuds and glanced at her sketches. "That for a robot?" Cassandra looked up, slightly guarded. "Yeah, cool," he said, nodding. "I build drones." Her eyes lit up, just a little. Really? Yeah, I'm heading to the same camp, Robotics and Drones Academy in Austin. Her smile grew, first real one all day. Me too. I'm jailing, he said. Cassandra. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a tiny drone prototype. Check this out. Still working on the signal stability, but it flies. She leaned in. For the first time since boarding, the flight didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like a bridge. They started talking, soft at first, then with more excitement. He showed her a video of his drone in action. She explained the difference between the servo motors she used versus magnetic actuators. Time fell away. The flight stopped feeling like a wound and started becoming something else, something healing. From a few rows back, Miss Delilah watched them with a knowing smile. And up in the cockpit, the captain was already coordinating a special announcement, one that would be delivered just before landing, a personal welcome for Cassandra Roosevelt and a public acknowledgement of the resilience she showed. But for now, Cassandra sat in seat 2A, smiling at Jalen's drone, her notebook open, the page filling up with ideas, circuits, and a sense that this trip, no matter how it started, was leading somewhere powerful. The seatbelt sign chimed on, and the plane began its slow descent into Austin. Cassandra glanced out the window as the clouds thinned and the city below revealed itself. Blocks of buildings surrounded by green patches, and roads like tangled ribbon. She'd seen Austin before in photos, on the Robotics and Drones Academy's website, but now it looked different. It looked like hers. Jalen had gone quiet beside her, eyes closed, earbuds back in. But his drone was still resting on the tray table between them, the blinking light from the prototype softly pulsing in time with the plane's hum. Cassandra looked at her notebook again. Her sketches were more than just diagrams now. Somewhere between takeoff and landing, they had become something else, blueprints of possibility. She didn't know what Paige would be doing when she landed, or if Mr. Reynolds would follow through with his report, or if Carmen would get the recognition she deserved. But for now, that didn't matter. She had her boarding pass, her seat, her space. And she hadn't given up a single inch of herself to get here. The pilot's voice broke through the speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Austin. We'll be touching down in just a few minutes. Temperature on the ground is 82 degrees, clear skies. And today we'd like to give a special welcome to one of our youngest first-class passengers, Miss Cassandra Roosevelt, who's traveling with us to attend the National Robotics and Drones Academy. We are honored to have you aboard. Cassandra's head snapped up. Jalen pulled out an earbud. Yo, that's you? She nodded slowly, the heat rising to her cheeks. The passengers around her began clapping. Not all of them, but enough. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a standing ovation. But it was honest. It wasn't applause for her father or the company or a name. It was for her. Miss Delilah reappeared, gently crouching beside her like she had when Cassandra first boarded. Feels different now, doesn't it? She whispered, a twinkle in her eye. Cassandra nodded. Yeah, it does. You earned that moment. Remember it next time someone tries to take something from you that already belongs to you. Cassandra bit her lip, holding back the emotion. Then she smiled, soft and real. Thank you. The landing was smooth, the kind of gentle touchdown that made the whole flight feel like a story closing its last chapter. As the plane taxied to the gate, Cassandra looked around the cabin, now familiar, no longer intimidating. She didn't feel small anymore. She felt tall, bigger than the aisle, bigger than the plane. When the doors opened, she waited for Miss Delilah to give her the signal. As she stood to collect her backpack, she noticed Jalen watching her. See you at check-in? He asked, slinging his drone case over one shoulder. Definitely, she said. They stepped off the plane together, but Cassandra's escort was already waiting at the bottom of the jet bridge. A young woman in a blue camp shirt, holding a sign with Roosevelt written in bold black letters. She smiled brightly when she saw Cassandra. There you are. I'm Amara, your academy counselor. We've been tracking all the flights, but yours is our VIP. Heard you had a bit of a dramatic takeoff." Cassandra laughed. "Something like that." Amara held out her hand. Cassandra shook it, her grip firm. "Your dad's already confirmed everything. He's flying in next week to watch the final showcase. He told us to keep an eye on the girl who's going to build the next Mars rover." Cassandra grinned. "He says that a lot." Amara chuckled. "Well, now I'm expecting it. No pressure." They walked toward the exit together, the airport buzzing around them. Cassandra spotted a group of other kids in matching camp lanyards waiting by baggage claim, laughing and chatting. She wasn't alone anymore. And she wasn't just the girl from the plane. She was a builder, a creator, a future. As they passed the customer service desk near the exit, Cassandra noticed something. Paige. Standing behind the counter, arms folded, face pale and tight, her eyes darted up as they passed, and for a brief second their eyes met. Cassandra didn't stop walking. And she didn't need to. She didn't need revenge, or to say anything clever, or even to glare. That wasn't her job. Her job was to be excellent, to take up space, to create things that couldn't be ripped in half by someone else's ignorance. By the time she reached the academy van, the sun had broken through the glass ceiling of the terminal, casting warm golden beams across the tiled floor. It looked almost like a spotlight, and for the first time, Cassandra didn't feel out of place standing in it. She climbed into the van with the other students, sliding into a window seat again. Jalen slid in beside her a minute later. Amara passed around welcome folders and name tags, and someone handed her a mini brochure for the week's activities. Cassandra flipped it open. Her name was already printed inside, under a section labeled Keynote Youth Innovators, Featured Projects. She blinked, then smiled. When the van pulled away from the terminal, Cassandra leaned her head against the window and watched the airport shrink behind her. Not disappear, just become background. A place that had once tried to shrink her, but instead made her stand taller. Her phone buzzed in her backpack. She pulled it out. "Dad, proud doesn't even begin to cover it. Call me later. I want to hear every detail." Cassandra texted back. "Cassandra?" I said, "I'm a keynote project now. I think they're going to regret that. I'm going to go full nerd." He replied in seconds. "Dad. Good. Be dangerous." She slipped her phone back into her bag, smiled wide, and opened her notebook again. Outside, the sun was brighter now. The van moved smoothly down the road, her destination clear and waiting. The sketch in her lap began to change. New lines, cleaner geometry, a fresh idea taking shape. And Cassandra Roosevelt, black girl, builder, traveler, daughter, kept creating. Not because anyone told her she could, but because she already knew.